Something's moving through the atmosphere right now, almost like a subtle tremor that can't be tracked by clocks or measured by technology. These days, tucked between August's routines, are quietly loaded with significance. Yet, at first glance, nothing seems out of place. As the weekend approaches, most will drift through their habits and chores, unaware that an unseen current is flowing beneath ordinary events. It's the kind of moment that doesn't tap you on the shoulder but rearranges the furniture of your life while your back is turned. Suddenly, decisions made or paths not taken begin to look different. An opportunity might dissolve, a familiar door might quietly close, or a pattern that's lingered for years may collapse overnight. Strange as it may sound, sometimes disruption isn't simply random chaos. Maybe there's a design beneath the surface, something that isn't here to punish but to initiate a deeper change. If the world feels slightly tilted or a persistent unease hangs in the air, it might be a clue that a larger story is unfolding. How often has it happened that a difficult day, a piece of bad luck, or even a passing shadow ended up steering existence in a better direction, though this isn't usually obvious until much later? Consider, for a moment, the idea that the turbulence encountered this weekend could be working on a level beyond logic, shaping experiences in ways that logic alone can't account for. Ever notice how the universe sometimes seems to speak in riddles, sending the most vital messages when least expected? People often miss the moment when transformation actually takes root. By the time the full weight of a shift is felt, the chapter has already turned, and the reasons for everything become clearer in hindsight. That lingering sense of vulnerability or caution is not just personal. It's part of something larger, an echo of change that sweeps through many at once. There's a paradox at play. Those whose inner fire glows brightest don't just light up their surroundings, they also stir the shadows awake. Have you ever felt that a period of growth also attracted resistance, or that the brighter the clarity, the more subtle the obstacles became? Life has a way of reminding that every surge in strength is met by hidden challenges rising from the periphery, just to see what new version of existence will emerge in response. Just when it seems the exam season has ended, the cosmic machinery grinds to a halt and shifts into reverse. Mid-August delivers more than a planetary reroute. It acts as a kind of existential inventory check. This isn't the season for easy answers or quick escapes. The strictest forces in the universe aren't interested in half-finished projects or convenient shortcuts. Instead, the spotlight swings back over past actions, illuminating corners that once seemed safely hidden. Half-hearted intentions, dismissed conversations, skipped growth opportunities. Suddenly, each one surfaces, demanding attention. It's uncanny how glitches appear in routines, delays pop up without warning, or unexpected voices seem to highlight private contradictions. Are these just random blips, or could it be that existence is deliberately circling back, collecting everything that slipped through the cracks? What if every unfinished cycle from recent months decides to knock, all at once, refusing to be ignored? In these moments, it's tempting to look for a loophole, but avoidance is no longer an option. Hasn't everyone felt that moment when yesterday's choices return, eager for a proper conclusion? Still, every audit isn't a condemnation. For those who have stayed true to inner commitments, something else emerges, a stillness, almost out of place in the surrounding noise. This tranquility isn't accidental, and it doesn't arrive out of luck. It builds over time, forged by steady actions that held firm even when recognition was absent. It's fascinating how, in a storm of uncertainty, some people seem to walk through it as if insulated by an invisible force. But even this sense of protection isn't a finish line. Instead, it points to a deeper unraveling, one that doesn't just tweak the schedule but gently tilts the axis of perception. Could there be a layer beneath the obvious, shifting reality itself? What does it mean to discover that calm is not just an absence of chaos, but the fruit of an invisible harvest cultivated in private? And isn't it curious that peace can feel more startling than any disruption? Meanwhile, the physical world starts mirroring the invisible adjustments. Around these mid-August days, an odd collection of sensations makes its presence known. Waves of confusion, flashes of fatigue, unexpected jolts that seem to flicker between mind and body. Sleep drifts out of reach, yet exhaustion follows throughout the day as if dreams were filled with their own hidden marathons. To some, it looks like disorder, but a closer look suggests a system-wide update, an unseen recalibration, where old scripts are erased and new instructions take root. Sometimes the signs of profound change masquerade as problems, but perhaps they are clues instead. The nervous system isn't faltering, it's absorbing information too vast to process all at once. Are these symptoms really signals that a new rhythm is settling in, one that demands the body's cooperation before the mind fully catches on? It's tempting to distract, to rationalize, or to power through, but what if the friction is necessary? A sign that reality is reshaping itself from the inside out. Maybe the wisest move is to step back, let the inner machinery do its work, and welcome the upgrade, discomfort and all. Ever wonder how often resistance blocks the very growth that was being requested? The hidden architecture of reality doesn't lose track of requests, it just stores them in places waiting for a perfect alignment. Right now, these brief days form a crossroads, like a switchboard lighting up all at once. Every silent wish sent up in the dark, every midnight question, every carefully pictured future, none of these vanished. They queued up behind invisible doors, and now the entire system is processing the backlog. Mid-August feels like a cosmic sorting station, where some intentions are stamped and delivered without warning. A sudden breakthrough, an out-of-the-blue message, an unexpected change of plan that clicks so cleanly it's impossible to ignore. Others, however, stall or bounce, not because the vision lacked force, but because the person who sent it has shifted. The present version no longer matches the energy that seeded the request. In this window, some seeds burst into bloom, others are quietly swept aside, all determined by resonance alone. The machinery of existence plays no favorites. It responds only to what fits. Sometimes, if the call came from a place of panic or pride, the response is pure stillness, or a jolt so sharp it demands a reset. Can anyone recall a time when what was once desperately wanted finally showed up, only to feel utterly out of place? And yet, when the real work is done, the kind performed in silence, the kind that never gathers applause, something else begins to unfold. Delays dissolve like fog in sunlight. Old contacts reappear, sometimes as allies, sometimes as reminders of roads best left untaken. Desires that once held power might lose their grip, making space for clarity that wasn't even on the wish list. This isn't disorder, it's maintenance at the root level. The things returning now may not all be rewards. Some are lessons dressed as gifts, or old dreams finding their way back, only to test what has truly changed. It's worth pausing to ask, if an old wish knocks again, does it still belong? Is this return an answer or a mirror? The subtlety of this period is that everything showing up carries the echo of past intentions. An email, an unexpected encounter, a surge of intuition, each one asking, is this still wanted, or is it time to move on? And isn't it funny how the universe never delivers in the packaging expected? Right now, the threshold between seen and unseen is more porous than usual. Signs stack up, unmissable to anyone watching, the same sequence of numbers repeating, messages appearing in music, coincidences trailing one after another like breadcrumbs. A passing thought calls someone to mind, and within minutes, their name lights up on a screen. It's not mere chance. These are pulses from the fabric of existence, a gentle nudge before the message turns into a shout. During this window, it feels as if a sensor grid is activated, monitoring not to punish but to observe who's aligned with the next movement and who's caught in the undertow. The more densely packed the synchronicities, the clearer the signal that something is watching, guiding, adjusting. Think for a moment. How many near misses, how many oddly timed events, how many goosebump moments have stacked up lately? Sometimes it's not fate, it's feedback. However, there's a paradox at play. Ignore the trail of signals, wave off the gut tugs, dismiss the chance encounters as noise, and the whole network seems to fade out. For those not tuned in, this period doesn't feel magical. It becomes a source of pressure, as if the atmosphere itself is pressing closer, urging course correction through discomfort. That's not surveillance or punishment, it's what happens when the path is illuminated and the traveler keeps looking down. Are these nudges really just random, or are they the answer to a question forgotten long ago? How many times has a blessing arrived looking like an interruption, a dare, or even a warning? There comes a moment in every cycle, often disguised as the ordinary, when an unassuming invitation or a quiet opportunity presents itself. It rarely shouts. Maybe it's an unexpected message, a proposal that stirs both fear and intrigue, or a door glimpsed just out of the corner of the eye. The real challenge. Recognizing the offer, not for what it looks like, but for what it could become. Sometimes, the most important doors open in the middle of chaos, almost daring someone to walk through. Does anyone ever wonder how many times those doors have been passed by, simply because they didn't look the part? Sometimes an opportunity appears wearing the mask of danger, almost as if it carries a lock for which only a new version of the self holds the key. Many overlook it, lost in cycles of overthinking, mistaking a pulse of fear for a stop sign. But that tremor isn't meant to block the path, it's the indicator that the ground beneath old assumptions is shifting. This crossroad arrives not with clarity, but with that uncomfortable thrill that sparks deeper instincts awake. Familiar reactions lean toward safety, toward hesitation, but beneath all the noise, a silent part recognizes the season of waiting is over. Shifts rarely care about readiness. Instead, they orbit decision. This is the breaking point where logic wobbles and unknowns multiply. The forbidden affirmation doesn't show up with certainty or security. Yet stepping across the threshold can rewire the journey in an instant, moving it from delay to alignment. Not every new passageway is a snare. Some are hidden accelerators, and that uneasy rush is the body's signal that a new reality is waiting to unfold. Consider, has a leap ever changed everything, even when the risk felt impossible to rationalize? When all outward direction disappears, it's not a withdrawal, but a quiet commencement. Silence isn't abandonment, it's recognition of arrival. The hand-holding, the obvious encouragement, the clear road signs, those have been set aside because the trial phase has concluded. Now, the space is filled with blankness and strange uncertainty. Familiar rhythms drop away, supporters step back, and the resources once relied on become elusive. Doubt creeps in like a cold draft, and the spark that once felt certain seems to fade out of reach. Still, this is not a reversal, but an advancement. The point of training wheels is to be removed, not to remain. Every hint, every gentle correction, every coded sign, those were tools for an earlier stage. Now the test is about moving forward with inner resolve alone. How often is growth mistaken for abandonment, when it's actually a vote of confidence from the universe? Somewhere in this liminal 48-hour stretch, a strange hush settles, but it isn't tranquility. It's more like the moment before a conductor's baton drops and a new symphony begins. In that rare stillness, a subtle query drifts through, not as a sound, but as a sudden clarity or even an interruption in thought. It lands unexpectedly, mid-task or in a quiet moment, carrying questions that cut to the core. Is this the real commitment? Is there a longing to leave or a readiness to begin? Is the mask still needed, or can it be dropped? The remarkable part? The voice behind these questions isn't easily mapped. It comes from a deeper current, a place both familiar and entirely unknown. This hidden inquiry is fleeting, it never repeats, and it doesn't trick or threaten. It's a pivot point that reveals who is listening, not just hearing. Have you ever felt the difference between a passing idea and a question that roots itself so deeply it changes everything? If the moment is ignored, it dissolves with no obvious aftermath, vanishing like a signal out of range. Yet for those who respond, even silently, a subtle chain reaction begins. This isn't a spoken answer but a quiet realignment, a recalibration that tweaks fate behind the scenes, shifting the current from one path to another. The aftermath might be surreal. Clocks behaving oddly, people acting unpredictably, the air itself thick with static, as if the rules have briefly changed. Only a rare few recognize this passage, let alone answer. Some brush it off, others overanalyze until it evaporates. But the ones who respond, those are the travelers who step off the cycle and begin to climb. The sense of unraveling isn't an ending at all. It's the coded invitation to a new layer of experience, a kind of silent acknowledgement that the story has moved up a level. Isn't it wild how breakdowns are sometimes the hidden entryway to ascent? Let's get real for a second. These days might feel like the walls are caving in, delays piling up, plans disintegrating, confusion thickening, and sudden realizations surfacing about loyalties, beliefs, or projects that once felt stable. The instinct is to see disaster. But what if this mess isn't evidence of collapse, but of realignment? The discord isn't senseless hardship, it's a cryptic invitation, a necessary pressure designed to reveal what can no longer travel forward. Roles, narratives, relationships, ambitions, anything rooted in pretense or outdated needs is dissolving, not as retribution, but as a means of clearing space for what's authentic. This isn't punishment, it's the emptying out required before genuine fulfillment can enter. Ever notice how the most significant turning points rarely feel gentle? This instability has a purpose. The version of self shaped by avoidance, overextension, or keeping the peace at any cost is now being peeled away with precision. Fight the process, and the sense of chaos will only intensify. But those who allow the old scaffolding to come down will uncover a kind of sight that's been waiting beneath the surface all along. As the dust settles, buried truths that struggle to be heard amid habit and distraction are finally in view. This is more than a reset, it's a revelation. Suddenly, what once felt obligatory, work, connections, pursuits, loses its grip. People pivot not out of trend, but out of necessity. The former structures aren't failing, they're simply incompatible with the new self that's quietly surfacing. What if the breakdown isn't a threat, but an unveiling? How often does clarity emerge exactly where certainty collapses? Everything shifts once the fallout is recognized as fertile ground. When the search for reassurance gives way to a search for meaning in the midst of upheaval, the whole direction of the story changes. Suddenly, action is no longer just a reflex, it becomes a declaration. These hours aren't about bracing for impact, they're about claiming the truest form waiting to be lived. The storm isn't just a test, it's a signpost for emergence. By the time this portal closes, the feeling of being trapped or propelled will be undeniable. No pause button, no hidden extension, just a quiet sense of finality settling in as the window closes. Hasn't everyone experienced moments when something subtle, yet permanent, signaled the end of an era? This is the close of one story, the quiet seal placed on a chapter that won't be reopened. What comes next is shaped by what's left after everything non-essential falls away. After a realignment, something strange begins to unfold. For some, it's as if the air suddenly holds more oxygen, thought patterns clear, tension slips away, and each moment carries a certain sharpness, as if perception itself has been fine-tuned. An invisible load lifts, and there's a feeling that something fundamental just clicked into place. These are the ones who, knowingly or not, resonated with the new frequency, often surprised by an onrush of insights or peculiar timing. Out-of-the-blue messages, uncanny symbols, and answers to silent questions start arriving as if life itself is eavesdropping on private thoughts. Dreamscapes become more vivid, instructions seem embedded in the oddest places, and chance encounters multiply. On the other hand, there are those who sense a dull haze settling in. Not a crisis, but a persistent fog, a sense that time is looping, lists are forgotten, intentions slide sideways, and progress becomes a slog. While others glide, inertia takes hold, plans unravel, and the sense of missing something grows stronger. It isn't about deserving or failing. It's the natural result of moving out of sync with a shift that doesn't wait for perfect awareness. The world doesn't punish, it simply moves forward, and sometimes, that train pulls out of the station while one is still searching for the schedule. But it's worth saying that transformation isn't always an earthquake. Sometimes it's as gentle as the subtle turn of a dial. Some will notice everything change, while others won't feel a thing. At least, not right away. The energy isn't always loud or obvious. It's encoded, moving beneath the surface. Even a brief moment of quiet or mindful reflection, a pause in the usual noise, can set the new pattern in motion. Those who stepped back from distraction, even briefly, may start to notice peace growing in small, unnoticed corners, then a series of synchronistic events, and, slowly, a sense of momentum that feels almost frictionless. If that didn't happen, no need to catastrophize. It's not about missing the boat, but the days ahead might carry more drag, more resistance, more false starts, a sense of swimming against the current. Because the days just passed were more than dates, they were a checkpoint, a recalibration that separated the old rhythm from the new foundation. The shift wasn't about being flawless, it was about being present, even for a heartbeat. It isn't about deserving or failing. It's the natural result of moving out of sync with a shift that doesn't wait for perfect awareness. The world doesn't punish, it simply moves forward, and sometimes, that train pulls out of the station while one is still searching for the schedule. But it's worth saying that transformation isn't always an earthquake. Sometimes it's as gentle as the subtle turn of a dial. Some will notice everything change, while others won't feel a thing. At least, not right away. The energy isn't always loud or obvious. It's encoded, moving beneath the surface. Even a brief moment of quiet or mindful reflection, a pause in the usual noise, can set the new pattern in motion. Those who stepped back from distraction, even briefly, may start to notice peace growing in small, unnoticed corners, then a series of synchronistic events, and, slowly, a sense of momentum that feels almost frictionless. If that didn't happen, no need to catastrophize. It's not about missing the boat, but the days ahead might carry more drag, more resistance, more false starts, a sense of swimming against the current. Because the days just passed were more than dates, they were a checkpoint, a recalibration that separated the old rhythm from the new foundation. The shift wasn't about being flawless, it was about being present, even for a heartbeat. Now, in the aftermath, awareness becomes its own reward. In the days that follow, the signals grow subtler, strange invitations, old contacts resurfacing, ideas tugging for attention, the quiet sense of being nudged onto a new path. It's worth asking, what's emerging just beneath the static? What patterns or people return, and what do those invitations actually mean? This wasn't a test to see who could endure the most, but a course correction designed to set things right. The coming weeks will mirror the decisions made, whether conscious or not, during that liminal window. In the end, those 2 days weren't an obstacle. They were an open door into what's next, closed gently but firmly by forces that move beneath the ordinary, seen only by those willing to pay attention.